Another lovely morning in Florida. Sun just barely up. Gonna try and face a little bit away from the fountain here. Usually I'm sitting with that thing behind me. You can still hear the fountain noise, I'm sure, but this is the best place to hang out here. You know, I see videos from people who obviously want to sell themselves as dating experts in the Philippines. And some of them have been making money doing that for a long time. You know, some of them I remember back when they first got over there, you know, after they broke up with whoever it was they went to go there to be with in the first place, and finally started deciding to go out and have some fun and date other people. You know, giving you exciting dating advice, you know, like wear a polo shirt if you want to look sophisticated, you know, and cool compared to everybody running around in a t-shirt. Helpful little hints like that, you know. And yeah, some of these guys, you know, from what I've heard, you know, have their little dating programs that they sell to people and things to, you know, to help you be successful in dating in the Philippines. But I'm just wondering, you know, what you call a successful outcome, because it kind of depends on what you're looking for in the first place. When you talk about dating, are you just going over there to have fun, or are you going over there to try and find, you know, a permanent life partner, you know, to be married to, or long-term, you know, permanent relationship? You know, because if you're dealing with somebody who tells you, well, I had to date 50 women before I found the right one, that's a 98% failure rate, you know? The first 49 women that they chose as possible prospects turned out to not be good material. So what kind of expert is that, you know? If you have a 98% failure rate, at that rate, you can just assume that the 50th one, when they finally got lucky, was just pure dumb blind luck, you know, not any kind of expertise that they had, you know, when it comes to picking a good woman. Now, if you're just talking about going over and dating people and finding places where you can go and meet women who are willing to hook up with you for a while and you know, spend some time with you without getting anything out of it in the end, then okay, so they dated 50 women. You know, those might be the kind of people you need, you know, to look to for some expertise, and think, okay, they can help me hook up with girls, you know. But if someone has to date that many people to find a good permanent partner, you kind of have to wonder, maybe the problem was them, you know? Of course, they're not going to tell you that. They'll say, well, yeah, these other girls, they were this, they were that, or, oh, they had tompo, or they did this, they didn't give me what I wanted, and they just didn't want to let me be in charge, or they didn't want this, they didn't want that. Whatever, it's always going to be some excuse, of course, that makes it sound like they ditched all those girls, and the girls all wanted them, you know? But you know, what's the common denominator? If there were that many people, they were the one common denominator in all of those situations. So it's kind of hard to think it's the other person's fault all the time, 50 times. But there are some guys who are just looking to go over there and hook up with as many girls as they can and have fun. So if that's what you're looking for, somebody who had to go through that many women, or had to, that's the expression some people use, you know, like, I had to date this many people before I found the right one. Think of all that time they wasted, you know, by being just a really poor judge of people. Say somebody's been in the Philippines for 10, 15 years, went through 49 women before they found the right one on the 50th try. aside from, what it says about their inability to choose a good prospect, or for themselves to be able to get along with someone, think of all that time they wasted. If they had done a better job of finding the right person and being able to to pick a good prospect, they could have saved themselves a lot of hassle, Have to go through the process of getting to know someone, find out what they're like. If they had been a better judge of character, maybe they could have hit the mark in only like 3 or 4 shots, let's say, instead of needing 50 shots to finally hit the target, And even then, if you're talking about someone who's been in that situation and now they're telling you, oh, I finally found the right one, this is the perfect relationship, and they finally decided to actually settle down and get married with someone, how long has that relationship been going, If someone spent 10 or 15 years over there dating all these other women, and now they're saying, but I finally found the right one, But how long have they actually been with her? A couple of years. So did they really make a good choice? Is that relationship really going to last? At that point, how can you judge it? They've been with somebody for a couple of years, so that's nothing. So we're supposed to take their word for it that now they were a great judge and finally found the right one. It would be easier to think that they knew something about finding the right person if maybe the second or the third or the fourth one they found ended up being a prospect and they've been with them now for like 10 years, Then you can say, okay, well, maybe they know how to make a success of things and find a good woman. But if they just have a track record of dating, endlessly, 50 people, say you've been there 10 years and you've dated 50 people, that's 5 people a year, So you give everybody like a couple of months, 2-3 months, let's say on average, and then you're moving on. Or maybe you're just talking about one night hookups and calling that, I dated that woman, which wasn't really, it's not really what serious dating, that's just, having sex, which is a totally different thing. So what is it you're looking for? You as a person who is out there looking for an expert, someone you can get advice from, is that what you're looking for? Just to go to the Philippines and have fun? If that's what you're looking for, it's pretty simple, Doesn't mean that you go over there and people are just going to throw themselves at you, like some guys would tell you, but in some places they will, Certainly, if they see you're unattached, someone sees you hanging out, you're out hanging out at the mall or something every day, coffee shop, and everybody sees you're obviously unattached, sooner or later somebody's going to make a move. And if you have any kind of desire at all to actually get involved with somebody and get involved in that scene, then surely you're probably going to be flirting around a little or whatever and doing what you have to do to open up the conversation, and something's going to happen, That's just a fact. If you, it's not to say that women in the Philippines are desperate and all that, but you're in a country, very small country, when you look at the total land area, with over 100 million people. What is it, 110, 120 million people, whatever it is. Certainly in excess of 100 from what I've, seen. You got to figure, there you are as a foreigner with some money, hopefully, keep yourself up, don't look like a total bum all the time, and somebody sees you and you're a nice person and you're friendly, treat people right, not a total asshole. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of women over there who would be willing to give you a shot, You look at some of the bums and losers that you see on YouTube and stuff that are getting plenty of action. So if you're just a normal, sane person with a decent personality, you don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to find anybody to date over there. The question is, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a long-term relationship? And that's a totally separate part of the conversation then, because a lot of that depends on you. A lot of these guys go over there and their attitude basically is, I'm going to go through all these girls and pick the one that really ticks all the boxes, exactly what I want. And that's a nice attitude. And that's what everybody thinks in any relationship anywhere, not just in the Philippines. But if you look at most of the relationships that last, and people who've had long-term relationships, it's not a question of filling out an order form. Like at the sushi restaurant, I'll have this and this and this, and then they bring you exactly what you want. You go out, you meet people, you find someone who, where there's some kind of a spark, and eventually you start hanging out and you realize that you like each other and you can get along, and it develops into something more, and it ends up becoming a permanent relationship. The idea that you're ever going to find the perfect person is silly. First of all, it doesn't exist. There are lots of people in this world that you could have ended up with, and depending on the situation in your life and all of that, you probably could have had a decent relationship with, It's being able, when you find someone and there is that spark between you and that desire on both your parts to have a relationship, that you both give it what it takes to make the relationship work, If someone's over there and they've gone through 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 women, they're not really looking for a long-term relationship. Either that, if that's really what they are looking for, then there's something wrong with them. Because if they went through that many people, who is the, like I say, what's the common denominator in all those relationships? Who's the one who's really to blame if those relationships don't work? If you've been through that many relationships and you've pulled the plug on it, either you probably have unreasonable expectations and you're just not the kind of person who is capable of doing your part to make a relationship work, or else there's something wrong with you and they're the ones who are pulling the plug. A lot of these guys, they want you to think, well, I went over there and I tried this girl and she just wasn't what I wanted, and this girl, and there's something wrong with her, and there's always the other person. There's something wrong with the other person. If you're looking for someone who can help you find a good woman and make a relationship work, looking at someone who, says, I've dated so many women in the Philippines, I can tell you how it's done. They can tell you how to be a failure. They can tell you how to do it wrong. They can tell you how to have a relationship that doesn't last. And some of us have, seen some of these guys through the years on their little YouTube videos and shit. And you've seen some of the people they've been through. And then you see what they end up with. They keep getting older and older and older. And then when they finally find the right woman to settle down with and have a permanent relationship, by that time they're like 60 years old and she's like 20, That's who they found to be their perfect woman, who probably is not doing it because they're partners in life. It's because they're portraying themselves as like the little groomer who's going to teach that person how to be a real woman, and someone who's some meek, mild little person who's just not ever going to argue with them and going to do exactly what they tell them all the time. And if that's the kind of person you are, then that probably explains why all those other women didn't want to be with you. But yeah, I think about that sometimes. Just some of these guys, they're experts at dating. I've seen some of the people that some of these guys have dated through the years. You go back in history, 5, 10 years or whatever, see some of the silly shit they posted on YouTube with some of these little girls they were with. I mean, this one guy in particular, man, and it used to be a big conversation on some of the other channels talking about, she looked like she was mentally retarded. She was basically like a 3-year-old, and acted like some little kid. And there he was sitting there like, look at me, Mr. Mature Dating Expert. And it was kind of sad and pathetic, you know. But I still see him out there giving everybody advice on dating in the Philippines. Like he's some expert on it all, you know. It's like I've said before, if you have a pulse and can still get an erection, you can have all the fun you want in the Philippines with as many people as you want, basically. Might not be a good idea. I don't usually watch too many of her videos anymore. Like the Filipina P, I saw she had a video up the other day about the rise of HIV in the Philippines. So you might want to be a little bit careful about running around having fun with everybody you meet. But yeah, think twice, you know, maybe 3 times before you look at some of these people as experts. You have to ask yourself, these people who went through 30, 40, 50 women, think of what a good life they could have had if they had really given it a try. Sorry, watching a squirrel carry a little plastic cup. Think of all the years that person could have had of a really good relationship if they had been willing to make it work with the first, second, third girl that they were, you know, involved with over there. You know, everybody always says, you know, don't just marry the first person you date, which is, you know, probably good advice. On the other hand, if you just say, well, I'm not going to be with you because I need to sample more options, you might be passing up the one who really could have given you a good life, just so you could go out and say, well, okay, I tried a few different people. But by the time, you know, if you've got a good prospect, I guess my piece of advice, expert that I am, you know, if you find a person who can really give you what you want probably, and is willing to make it work and be a good wife, if you decide to say, well, you know, this is good, I like you, and we're getting along really well and everything, but everybody always says, you know, you can't just like, you know, settle down with like the first, second, third girl you meet. By the time you go out and sample another dozen girls and you realize what a mistake you made leaving the first one, she's not going to want you anymore, you know? If you have a good prospect and you're with somebody who treats you right and you have a good relationship, this idea, well, gee, I really like this, but I can't settle down with this person, I need to go date a bunch of other women, is a silly idea. That's fine if you're just looking to date people, but if you're looking for a real long-term relationship, marriage, whatever, to be with someone who's going to be a good wife, sometimes it doesn't pay to kick somebody to the curb and go out and sample more goods, you know? Be smart enough to recognize that, hey, this is a good prospect, and stay with it. Don't throw away a winner just so you can go and date 30, 40 more losers. And when people tell you they're an expert when it took them 50 tries to get it right, there's something wrong.